And happy Eve for New Year's.
That's just your new thing. The guy who loves Eves over there, that's Marshall Shore.
But not just Eve Plum, but also Eve.
Eve.
Right.
I'm Melissa Farley. We are.
Marsha.
You.
I was like, Marsha.
He's so caught up in the Eves, he doesn't even hear his name. Squirrel. Okay. We are at the Arizona.
Well, I mean, shiny.
I know.
Light.
We do have shiny things.
Pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't just have things, we have a person who brought the things.
An interesting person, too.
We do.
Yeah.
Cindy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So, okay, tell us, what are we looking at here exactly?
So this is a business I started in 2016 called On Her Mark. The first name was going to be On Your Mark, which was just a generic type of name that kind of tied into any kind of sport, but that business was already taken as a name, so On Her Mark, which is even more fitting. It stems out of my passion for women's sports, and I think that has been a lifelong feeling. But in the early 90s, I started collecting vintage women's sports cards.
Okay.
So I brought a few, and then the business was an outlet for that passion. So some of it's card-based. I don't sell a lot of cards, but I make things to bring back the history of women's sports.
So what were the cards for?
So most of them were distributed in tobacco packs, and so they're oftentimes known as cigarette cards or tobacco cards, but they were also distributed in gum, chewing tobacco, chocolate, coffee, even a piano. So it had different purposes, and what makes these unique and different than the cards today was that they were used to promote the sales of a product. If you wanted more cards, you had to buy more product. So think of the baseball cards from the 70s that some of us are familiar with.
Right.
They came with chewing gum. And
Right.
so that was kind of the end of that before it went into its own product.
So now this isn't a card though, right?
That's a chocolate card. That's a Canadian card of Fanny, and who goes by Bobby Rosenfeld. So yes, it was with chocolate bars.
Yeah, because these are different than kind of what, there's the glare. Okay,
so my collection comes from around the world, and I own about 2,000 cards. They are unique in that I only collect the ones that were printed around the time that the athlete was competing. So I don't do any aftermarket cards, and they all have to be original. And so it's just a really neat way to look at women's sport history through the lens of their own trading cards.
So tell me about your passion of women's sports and the collecting of the cards. How did that become your thing?
All I can tell you is when I found my first card, I had literally this jolt of electricity through my body. It's like I knew I was onto something, I just didn't know what. It ties into my love of pictures and women's sports, and it was just like bam. The backs or the fronts have a little bit of information, but it's really the rabbit hole that sends me down when I want to learn more about them. And so they're like a gateway drug of information.
So.
And it's become to the point of, with 2,000 cards plus a database of 3,000, they have patterns. There's patterns in the cards of where they came from, when they were produced, and that is that gives hints to the history that was going on at that time in those countries.
That sounds like something you could get into.
Oh,
Yeah. So are you an athlete yourself?
Yes. You name the sport, I probably did it, except for gymnastics and things like that. But swam as a kid, did basketball as a 9th grader, mostly track and field.
Okay.
Was able to play basketball my last 2 years of college, and now I swim and I bike.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so very active. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of these pieces, though. I mean, you said you make these.
Yes, so this was able to tie my love of woodworking and women's sports. It started with my aunt who said, I have some trophy toppers from Berlin. She was in Berlin. Can you use them? And I'm like, sure. And I had no idea what I would do with them. And it took several years before I made my first item. These are the most recent. This is the evolution of where they become from a business card holder to an actual light object. And so with these three here, if you touch any part of the metal, it turns on a light. So these two on the ends are light boxes where there's a light in it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And so it turns on. So that's like the runway of a fencer. It might be hard to see on television, but it's really neat because, again, any part that's metal. And so they take a bit of work to handcraft, say, like the court of the basketball.
Yeah.
To just come up with the ideas and to put it all together. Sometimes, like this one, and the diver's exquisite because I have to hand cut away the metal that's the trophy topper. You can't do it mechanically because you'll break them, and they'll just snap at their ankles or something, and unpredictably.
Yeah.
So it takes quite a bit of time to.
So I'm going to ask the rude question, right? Because these are handmade, handcrafted.
Yes.
A lot of effort goes into this.
Yes.
If I wanted to buy, say, the swimmer from you, what kind of price ranges are we looking at?
The swimmer is about $300. The basketball ones are about $150. It really just depends on the kind of wood it's used. The chopper, which they're all unique. The older ones get a little bit more expensive, and then just how much of work went into each one.
Yeah. I keep looking. I mean, I just love the swimmer, but I also, I call her my cousin, but really she's Pat's cousin, so cousin-in-law. I don't know. She was a competitive professional swimmer, and so I'm like, oh, she would just love that. That's such a cool. I've just never seen anything like this.
Yeah, thank you. That one I call Dreaming of Gold. I try to make it like a platform diver. I do have some swimmers. This is a key holder rack. So you would hang this on your wall, and you would use the divers as your key holder.
Oh my gosh, that's so clever.
So they're like in the starting, position and about to take off.
Oh, how fun! So how long does it take you to make some of these?
Hours. I mean, hours and hours. Every piece is unique.
Yeah. I love that.
The door stops aren't as expensive, and they don't take as long. But it all, again, just depends on the topper, the kind of wood, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a nice outlet. It's a really nice outlet. These are what I call vintage trophy toppers, and they're all metal, and they have to be to conduct electricity.
Right.
So you started with these kind of handful of trophies that you got from Berlin. Where do you get the trophy
mostly online
now?
stores.
Okay.
And just I do certain searches, and I've kind of developed a better eye for what I want in what looks older, and it has to have the look, if you will, now. So yeah,
that's so cool.
Well, see, and I also love trophy toppers as well. So I have a whole collection of trophies
Did I not know that
I've
about
never
you?
won, as well as bins of just these things because I can only have so many trophies.
Do you turn them into cool stuff though?
I haven't gotten there yet, but I keep having these ideas of because the larger men, it's like I see them like on the tray as like the handles.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
So
yeah.
So I mean, I haven't done anything with them yet.
So
but
you feeling inspired now?
I'm not going to go to this level. So
I mean, this is like artistry. I mean, this is really,
this
really
is
beautiful.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
and she's just, the art, and that's what attracts me too, especially the vintage ones. It's just the art, the creation of that topper.
Right.
I mean, are so beautiful.
Yeah, they're so detailed.
Yeah, exactly. Where you get today, if you see them, it's like it's like fast pressed, and so you kind of it's a blobby with a basketball on it.
Yeah.
So the only thing I've been like up close to, because I'm not an athlete, so I never won a trophy. But my husband has won 13 Emmy Awards, and so we have the big Emmys, all over our house.
Nice subtle way to drop that in.
Well,
I just want to point that out. It's very subtle.
It's not me, it's him. I can plug him. No, but so we have them all over the house, and they're massive. So kind of seeing some of these toppers, they're really exquisite to look at.
It gives them a second life, which is nice too. I mean, a lot of people I think have maybe their mothers or their grandmothers trophies, and they really don't know what to do with them.
Yeah,
it's not something you just keep on the shelf forever and ever, amen. So this gives them a second life.
I guess most people don't keep them on the shelves forever.
Yeah. Would you do that? Like if someone brought you a trophy
Yeah, I do have a custom piece in process right now. Not with someone else's, but it's a commission. But yes, I would absolutely consider that.
That's a really thoughtful idea. I really like that. Okay, so where can people find you and your work, and how do they buy these from you?
I have a website called onhermark.com. Mostly that's the main source. Sometimes I vend in the Phoenix area, but right now it's mostly at onhermark.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was such a treat. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
No, these are just beautiful.
Very unique,
Thank you.
and beautifully done. And maybe we can get some detail shots and share them in our newsletter later or on social, because I think just up close, they're really something to behold. So I'd love to share some of those details with you.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Chris, sharing your passion. So
yeah. So we will be right back after a quick break here. I think we've got just a little bit left to wrap up the show.
There's always more.
There's always more with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.